our jobs will be maybe easier, or maybe we will work less and do more stuff. Nowadays, there's no much reading going on because everything is like 1 or 2 prompts. You have to actually understand the problem that the business wants to solve. Cutting people left and right and replacing them with automation. People are adding AI just because everyone says that they are using AI. Let's get rid of people, right? Maybe it's time to think more about what I'm saying, what I'm writing. I don't trust Meta one single point. Writing the test took more time than fixing the bug. I could have already done it instead of just talking about how we can do it. The tech, it's about people. Is there a managed solution which is not costing you an arm and a leg? The need of writing software, it's like calling me. Hello and welcome everyone to yet another episode of VUnstaged, the after hours edition with yet another very special guest, somebody I am meeting today. So it's my pleasure and honor to speak to you. If you can tell us your name, what do you do for a living? And I ask this everyone, how did you get into tech? What's your story behind that? Because everyone has their own unique story of how they got into tech.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Dan. It's my first podcast that I'm participating at, and my story begins.
Definitely not your last one.
I hope so. And my story with the computer science begins at the College of Informatics, and it was my passion from my childhood, let's say like that. And then I went to the technical university where I studied computers, and then I did my master degree there, and that's it mainly.
So you knew right from the beginning that you wanted to do software engineering?
No, I did not know about this. My goal was that I will automate stuff and I will automate my life.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan to work as a software engineer. And my plan was like, I will study this. I will be able to automate my stuff that I wanted to automate. How I will make money, I didn't know about this.
So it was more of a passion instead of like focusing on the money.
Yeah, right. All the time I liked computers, and I remember my first program. It was in Pascal at school, and I remember it was a for loop or something. It was reading some numbers from 1 to 10, and I liked that it was just a for loop, but the output was like 10 new lines.
Yeah, you like that you write like 3 lines, and the output is like whatever you say the number is. Yeah, it's interesting that you say passion, because at the time, at least, I don't know, like 5 to 6 years ago, people, like I can tell from my class when I went to university, a lot of people went to like study IT and whatnot because of how well it's paid. And because it was popularized through the country that this is a well-paid job, it's a stable job, it's not going to go away. You should focus on picking up IT. And I know a lot of guys who just like know how to change Windows and whatever, and they just fucking go into studying this. And then after that, they went working for like restaurants, like waiters and whatnot, which is to prove the point that if you don't have passion in what you're doing, as you mentioned, you probably are not going to stay here long enough, because it's a lot of stress in a way. Like you bang your head over the wall, especially when things don't work in the beginning.
Right, that's right.
Like, how did you overcome that moment? Because everyone has this moment when something is really hard to stick in your brain. Like you just are stupid and don't understand how it works.
I was thinking that this moment will pass once you gain more experience.
Yeah.
But even after more years of working in this area, I understand that there are moments when you have to do something, like you have a plan in your brain that you are going to do that this way, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. You are frustrated about this. You don't know what to do, but you know that you are the one that is not right. But because the computer is just a machine that will execute what you are saying. And in order to overcome this, it's like sometimes this is something that I realized after a few years of work. I just step back, I do something else, and somehow magically, when I forget about that, I return back to it. I have new ideas and I can solve it.
Yeah. Do you have do you had moments when you go frustrated, problem is not solved, you go to sleep, and then you wake up in the morning, 5 minutes and it's done?
Yeah.
I cannot explain that concept.
I cannot explain it either, but I have this, and it was like a moment of when I realized that this is possible. I use this.
Yeah, it's like almost our brain goes into this like state where it blocks itself from like finding and reaching solutions, and no matter what you try, just doesn't work. And then the next day, it's like, yeah, of course, it makes sense. Like this is how you should have done it anyway.
Yeah,
like let's move on.
Yeah, that's right.
It's nothing crazy, nothing complicated.
Right. I had one of these of first moments when I realized that this is possible when I was in the first year at the university, and there is a discrete mathematics that we're studying, and I had to solve like Bellman-Kalaba or an algorithm that whatever I tried, it didn't work. Like I didn't understand how to implement it, and on the second day I implemented it and it worked, and I didn't understand how I couldn't implement it.
Yeah, it's like really surprising that sometimes like really hard stuff, which like it doesn't stick and then it sticks so easily after that. It's like you just need to wait it out. You just need to like chill and maybe come back and fix it later, which is funny. I remember especially university days when you have like homework assigned to you, but then you don't want to be like everyone else. You want to do some extra mile stuff. And then you hit, especially everyone starts with C, and C is like a magical language, especially as a beginner when you don't understand how memory works. And then you try to find your way around it, but you just can't seem to understand it. And so many wasted hours staying until very, very early in the morning. But then in the morning, you had to pick up and go to the university because you had classes. And yeah, then you waste one day so that you can recover the next one and just pick it up in 5 minutes. Which is funny.
Yeah, that's right.
Before we dive into topics, I'll just, I know we're drinking still water, but still water wasn't on the menu. For today's show, we have two different interesting drinks. Red wine, of course, is the drink of choice for today, but you're driving. In any case, the tradition is you pick a bottle at the end. So for today, we have the same brand, Gogo Winery, Instinct. One of them is Rara Neagra, I believe. The other one is, I think, Saperavi. So it's the same brand, the same winery, just different grapes. So it's a little bit of a pity that you can taste it, but it is what it is. I guess a V2 will unveil this mystery. So that being said, I will do the honors at the end of the show. For now, let's go back a little bit to maybe how you started. Because as far as I know, you're doing Java development at the moment, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. I was wondering, did you always start with Java, or maybe it was something else like PHP, front end? What was the start of the journey?
The beginning, when I realized that I can make money from this area, it was 2011. It was my first year at the university, and I created an account on a freelance website. And at that moment, I remember that there was like a problem described, and they wanted a solution. They didn't instruct you that you need to use a specific language. And I started using PHP, and I tried different frameworks. My goal was to implement that solution that they needed fast, and to get money from that.
So money is an incentive then.
I remember definitely at that moment, money was an incentive for me. I just worked for money. And it didn't matter what language I'm using.
No, PHP definitely. What year was that in?
2011.
Yeah, no, the PHP was like the king back in the times. Because I also started with PHP. At the time, I think Symfony was like the king.
Right.
Then Laravel came along, kind of even the field a little bit. Then I was like, crazy, let's create my own framework. I think everyone creates. Everyone tries their own framework. And then we went to like a hackathon, and I was sitting with the boys, and we were like discussing like, what are we implementing? And then what solution or in what framework we're doing it. And I was like, fuck it, we'll do it in my framework. And then nobody would understand shit. But at least I was, I guess, proud that we did something in my framework, and it's fun.
Yeah, it was the same for me. Like, I will do a better framework, I will understand it. Then someone told me about object relational mapping frameworks, and I tried to do it by myself in PHP.
I remember when that was popular, like this, what was it called? The pattern, the object relational mapping pattern. Yeah, the ORM. Yeah, ORM. Yeah, I remember when ORMs came along, everyone was like, ditch you don't want to write SQL for specific databases because what if tomorrow you change the database?
Yeah.
And then there are projects which use the same database. And I used to love ORM, and now I'm so very against ORM because of so many additional costs which nobody talks about before using ORMs. And it's just funny how you change your mind over time. Like you start adopting trends, and then as you grow up, you mature, you realize not everything trendy is necessarily better, and you start like pushing back a little bit.
That's true. That's the same for me. The history that you're telling right now, it's the same. I started to like ORMs. They are simplifying things. Then you realize that they are adding complexity. Sometimes they are slower. And why do I need them if I can write an SQL?
Yeah, like my problem with ORMs is, first things first, like let's be all the way honest, like name me projects that transitioned from, let's say, one SQL database to another SQL database. Unless you're still fucking writing MariaDB or MySQL, I get it. But if you're doing Postgres, what are the chances you're going to change to something else in, let's say, 5 years? And even if you did change, I would argue the effort, especially with in the era of AI, the effort to change all the queries to something else is not that big of a deal, I would say. But I guess the most annoying part for me was like establishing relationships and then debugging the queries, because you don't write the queries yourself. And what I'm using these days is like a data access layer instead. So I'm just using some kind of query builder, and that's it. Like I know exactly what the query will be generated, and I don't need fucking magic. And that magic tends to bite you back in the ass if you don't pay attention. And a lot of people don't pay attention, especially like juniors. You start, oh, it's super easy. I just add a new field, and it automatically creates a table, and it knows that this table is related to that table. But then it bites you back in the ass when you want to like fix bugs, especially, right?
Yeah, I remember when I joined the company, it was a startup from USA, and they were not using any ORMs. They were writing SQLs. And I didn't initially understand why do we need SQLs. They are adding complexity. We can do it easier with Hibernate, for example.
Yeah.
And then when I realized that they are distributing their software at scale, when you need performance, you have to think about writing or how your SQL code will be executed on those database servers. And I realized that even they add some they make some stuff easier. They add additional complexity that it's harder to solve later.
I was doing this presentation on observability, and I was curious how drastically just adding a log within your code affects the performance of the application. And a lot of people don't even realize that they are, by just adding one extra log or one extra, I don't know what, it just creates a lot of memory and it accumulates, especially if you have like hot paths in your code. And if you really like focus on optimizing things, you will find so many flaws in the way we write software nowadays. And as you said, like at the time when you like jump into a project, you're like, these guys are old school. Like they write strings and then they concatenate the strings. And if you look at the bigger picture, as you said, then you realize it's actually not necessarily worse. And with software, I would say it's not good or bad. It's more like what's the poison you want to pick? Do you want to go this way? You're going to have to deal with this compromise. Or do you want to go the other way? You're going to have to deal with another compromise.
Yeah, that's right. So I feel like if you go in one area, let's say that you are using PHP, everyone will tell you that you at the beginning will tell you that you need to use this shiny and great framework.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start working more and more on digging like on that language, on that area, you understand that there is stuff that even with this magic cannot be solved, and you need to understand what happens under the hood. And this is true like for Java as well.
Yeah, for me, the moment, I guess it was like a small struggle, is when I moved from a dynamic language to a statically typed language. I couldn't understand the idea of defining everything up beforehand. Like everything must have a type. And also it opened up my mind a little bit, because like if you take like PHP or JavaScript world, you have a lot of these packages, either built-in packages or packages you download, and they do a lot of magic for you. like let's say HTTP session or I don't know, any kind of like logic you take. There's a package for that. There's like an npm package or some kind of other package, and you just import it, use it. It almost feels natural and intentional. And when you go to like a more lower level language like Go or something else, all of that doesn't exist. You have to do it yourself. And you're like, why doesn't it exist? Like, why didn't the creators of the language think of this? But then you start asking questions. But if they did create it, what was the way? Let's say HTTP let's say a session. Like, what's a session? Like, how do you define? Like, what's the storage? And then all of these questions start popping up, and then you realize why they didn't do it, because it's a complex decision which very much depends on the product you're working on. And I mean, some languages don't have a lot of sugar, while other languages have a lot of sugar, and it's, I guess, a hard balance. But for me, it was a hard moment when I stepped away from the dynamic world, in the sense that I had to learn how a lot of stuff works behind the scenes, like HTTP, for instance. You never ask yourself how HTTP works when you're working with it in JavaScript, for example. You read about it, but you don't really understand the protocol. The moment you start like doing HTTP servers on your own in like lower level languages, you start actually understanding it. It's just funny, and I think it's a good exercise to try something else, to see how, let's say, other ecosystems do things and stuff like that.
Related to this one, the CTO of the company where I'm working, it's a guy that likes to have like API defines the objects to be strongly typed.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be clear what they are representing, why they are representing this. And initially, or even today, sometimes it's hard to think, why do I need to be so specific? But later, when you understand that being specific saves you time and energy, when you have a project that is going to last for many years, and like spending some time on designing it, on having strong type objects, it's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
And when I look back on project that I wrote in PHP or JavaScript, I understand that they could not live for so long as a Java project that I'm writing code right now, because in Java, if you write more code, that knowledge is in the code, and it helps you over the time to return back to it and understand what happens and maybe why some decisions were taken at that time.
Yeah, that's true. Do you do you ever go back and write like dynamically typed languages, let's say JavaScript?
Yes, I write JavaScript right now, but the idea that I write JavaScript right now because we are executing actually JavaScript. There is an engine written in Java that takes JavaScript and executes it, and you have to write JavaScript.
Yeah, I was more wanted to ask, if you go back and write JavaScript, do you start defining types in like the console?
I didn't write JavaScript
like
recently.
Because I'm doing like Go, it's in syntax, especially when defining variables, it might sometimes be similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like going into the console, I'm starting defining types. Like, this is of this type, and very quickly I'm realizing, oh, hold on, this is actually JavaScript. This is not like Go and whatnot. And it's just like such a, like, it's part of the way that I'm thinking already. Okay, this is of type that, this is of that type, and you quickly go out of this dynamic world. Whereas previously in JavaScript, you had to, I think there was like even like types were part of the name of the variable.
Maybe.
Yeah, because you couldn't always tell what was going to be the type of, and you would say this is like I don't know, a user object or whatever, and you would know that this should have like this specific JSON structure, for example. Whereas with statically typed languages, you can afford the luxury of having shorter variable names, because you have a type. Like if you want to know, like if you have a user object or a user type, then you go look it up. You can have like a variable named you. You don't care. Like, of course, there's like a balance on how you name things, and naming is like one of those free endless wars when it comes to developers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can afford this luxury to have simpler naming and kind of self-documenting code in a way.
Yeah.
We talked about trends a little bit. I was wondering, what is aside from AI. We are still yet to discover and to open that Pandora box. But aside from that, what are some trends you would say you quickly picked up back in the day, but then as you progressed in your career, you started to despise, not like as much, and maybe became a little bit more anti-trends?
Maybe it's about microservices.
Ooh, that's a topic.
Then cloud computing, running in cloud. Then using queues like Kafka for everything. It's a lot of stuff.
You just threw some big names out there. Let's start with microservices, maybe. Should everything be a microservice nowadays? Because I have not met a project, an employer who hasn't been throwing that term at me. Like, we're doing microservices, we're doing this, as if somebody is doing monoliths nowadays.
So I was thinking that microservices are good. Everyone needs to do them because they are small. You can group like teams around a microservice to work on it. But then with it, there comes complexity.
Yeah.
You have to deploy them, you have to monitor them, and you have to make them work with other microservices. And if you are splitting an application too much,
transactions and shit.
Transactions and shit. And then if you split it too much, it's hard to deploy, to maintain, and stuff. And it's something that I learned from practice, but that not everything needs to be a microservice, and that having a monolith or bigger microservices is perfectly fine. At the end of the day, we're solving a business problem. And if you can solve a business problem fast with a monolith, it's fine to have a monolith.
Yep. I started to fall in love more with, let's not say monoliths, but more like a big monorepo type of project. And I just put everything inside of that. And then, like, the moment I feel like this is going too big, it's going sideways. And it's also very smart because you can see exactly how things can be split. Because with microservices, if you immediately start splitting domains and bounded contexts, you cannot always see relationships between microservices. And sometimes that relationship is developed as you implement, let's say, a business feature. And then you see that there's this user which is related to that other relationship, that other model. And then you actually realize it cannot be easily split. Otherwise, this means extra HTTP call, extra time spent on the network. And then you're like, okay, maybe it was a smart decision to actually do it in this monolith type of way.
Yeah, I like this monorepo thing. I was against it initially.
Same thing here.
I was thinking that why do you need a monorepo? You have to keep every domain or microservice in its own repository. There you keep the deploy code that is going to take about building it, deploying, testing it. And then I realized that it's again based on practice.
Yeah.
I realized that having a monorepo, I even heard that at Google they have a monorepo.
Yeah.
A big one. And having a monorepo allows you can deploy microservices or multiple services from a monorepo, but having it actually simplifies things and makes.
Yeah, the beauty I would say is it forces, like, there's no such concept as compatibility. If somebody added a change in the shared package, it's going to be forced and pushed down the stream to every service. And most likely, if it's a language which is statically typed, it's just going to fail at the compilation phase. So if you have like a CI pipeline, which let's say compiles every project and pushes like a Docker image somewhere, then it's going to fail at that stage. And you know for sure that you've fucked up some package in some other service. And you are the owner of that, and you should fix it on your own.
That's right. There are some downsides of this. For example, it takes longer to build it.
Yeah,
it takes longer to test it. If you have all the tests in the same repository, and you have to run, let's say that you have changed a common package, a common module, you have to test again everything. You are not sure that you changed or touched only a part of the application. You have to test it. It's going to take longer. It's a disadvantage, but at the end of the day, if you are deploying stable code and stable applications in production and your customers are happy,
but let's take a step back. Why did we even come to this concept of monorepo? I would say it has to do everything with development time and developer experience. I'm not sure to what extent you've experienced library maintenance hell, where you have, let's say, microservices, and they all depend on, let's say, the same library. And some of them have different versions of it. And then like one microservice uses like the newest version, the other microservice an older version, and all of this would not have existed if you had the library within some kind of shared package, and you share it across. Yeah, it's gonna take. You say it's gonna like build times. Yes, the build times will take longer because now every single time you adjust, let's say, especially if you adjust like the main. But you could have like a smart way of doing it. For example, you could have a check. For example, if you could like when you do like the Docker file stuff, you could have like a separate cached step for the shared packages, for example. And if the shared package has changed, then you recompile the whole Docker file, for example. If it hasn't changed, then you only compile the binary which affected it. So you have like a binary specific, let's say, packages, and then you have the shared package. And if the shared package was copied from like the Docker file step, which is like one of the first steps, then the whole thing basically builds.
Yeah, that's true. There are for sure improvements that you can do there, and there are no.
But I would say like the developer experience is way better because you force like the latest change on everyone, and this is also another good thing. Like the other problem with this library maintenance hell is people are not aware. Let's say you have like teams, as you said, right? You have a small team doing a microservice, another small team doing another microservice. Mm-hmm. What tends to happen is teams don't care about what other teams do.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty hard to communicate and make clear to the teams that they need to do one thing and this that thing needs to be.
And they're like, oh, this is like they are to blame, you know? Like our microservice works okay. This is not our fault, you know? But if it was a monorepo, if somebody like changed something, mm-hmm. they would know because the build would fail. They would know that they have broken another microservice by adding this change.
Yeah, but I think like let's say 5 or 10 years ago, it was like a new idea or pretty new idea.
Yeah.
Having microservices, it was cool, and everyone started doing new projects using this idea.
Yeah.
And I think even probably monorepos were like something older. People now started to realize that even it's something not very new, but stuff that was tested over time and it works, it's better to do it that way.
I would still do microservices, don't get me wrong, but maybe I would be more restrictive of when to split. Like, when do I split? That's one. And two, how do I store the code? I think I've had an experience with a startup where we went full on blast microservices, and the fuck up was we did separate libraries. And then we started doing library management, versioning, making sure the library is up to date in all the services. And the more services you add, the more services you need to maintain with the latest libraries. The more libraries you add, you multiply that by the number of the services. It's just a hell. It quickly becomes like a hell very quickly. And then you think, like, what if we went monorepo from the beginning, which a lot of people push back against? Yeah.
Do you have in Go this concept of a module that you can add as a dependency? And once you change that module, when you try to compile the...
Yes, they have this interesting way of versioning. So basically, if you like as opposed to how it's done in most languages, where you have this minor patch, major minor patch.
Yeah.
Instead of that, they have like the major. When you add like a major version of a module / package / library, then what's going to happen is it's going to completely adjust the import path. So like when you import something, let's say github.com / abc / package name, that automatically means you're importing version 1, meaning the stable version. If you import anything that's major version 2 and above, you must specify /package /v2. So the path changes, and actually the whole code changes because of that. So if you added like a major version update of a package, you cannot change it across your application unless you explicitly change the import path.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is like a nice way of saying, hey, we've updated this to a major version. This is definitely a breaking change. Make sure you change the path and make sure this is reflected in all your code base. So it's forcing developers to do a manual extra effort so that like it communicates the message that this is a breaking change, instead of how the JavaScript community does it. For example, they like push like a minor version. Technically it shouldn't be a breaking change, right? But turns out it is a breaking change. They sometimes push like patches as breaking changes. And then it's a patch, let me upgrade, and then you find out that it broke your application actually.
I remember when I was like writing JavaScript, I had to know about many libraries that are popular at that moment.
Yeah,
because we were using them in the project, and I also remember that they were changing very fast. And when I switched to Java, I liked this, that over years it's pretty stable.
I cannot tell you how in love I am with this concept. Like, it's not a thing that you go on a vacation for 1 week, you come back, you run npm whatever, and then it says 50 libraries are out of date. Would you like to update? And some of them are like yellow, maybe like a warning and stuff. But at some point, a lot of them become red, meaning you must update. And it's like it's a moment when you're afraid to do that step, basically, because you just break everything. Yeah. Whereas with Go, I'm like, I can pull up, I don't know, a project which I was working on 5 to 10 years ago, and now I'm 100% sure it still is going to work without any errors, which is funny but interesting.
Yeah, I never used Go, but when I was like choosing between Java and Go, I think was pretty new at that time. I wanted to learn it.
Oh, it's Java is a really good choice, I would say, and it preserved this. Like most, I would say, most statically typed languages preserve this idea of your code is stable. It's not like it's not as brittle. Like you can't break it as easily, and even if you do, you have to do it purposefully. It doesn't happen that. And also the community is a bit slower. It's a bit more calculated in a way, like people don't just fucking push libraries left and right as with JavaScript, for example, which ends up breaking a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but if you want to write a project that will be ready tomorrow, if you start doing
it
in JavaScript, it will be ready. But if you do it in Java, it will take longer.
It's true. But again, we go back to this idea of what's the compromise we wanna take, right? Do we want long-term stability, developer happiness / I don't know, things being less prone to bugs and errors which should not be there in the first place, but they are because of the nature of dynamically typed languages. Like you write the code, you think everyone's on board, everyone is expecting that this object has this property. In reality, it doesn't, because it's a JSON object which can be anything. It can be even an array. It can be a number, anything.
Yeah.
And of course, you can solve and mitigate this by introducing some sugar like TypeScript and whatnot, but you still are not safe from like runtime errors.
Actually, I didn't write so much TypeScript, but I like it that it introduces types.
Yeah, I used to promote it, but then quickly I'm like, no, fuck this, because it's like nice that they have it, but at the same time, it's not a language which has static typing. And it's kind of like a fake interface and bridge between, it's everything. Like every single time I remember TypeScript, I remember Java developers making fun of it, because it's like the same fucking JavaScript. You're just, anyway, you're compiling that same thing to like ECMAScript 5 in the browser so that it's compatible with older browser and it works. Yeah. I don't know. Back to microservices. I'm not sure if you did answer the question. Do we want to go microservices? What would be the final conclusion?
I think yes.
Yeah.
But calculated. And we need them because we want to scale our applications. And nowadays, when you want to distribute your product to a lot of people, you cannot scale it if you have a monolith.
True.
And you need it because of the scaling. Otherwise, like if you are not developing a product that is going to be used by a lot of people, for example, a web application, you are developing let's say a desktop application, most probably you don't need microservices.
Yeah. It's like more of a shared Have you had cases? I'm just curious. Have you had cases when you've split something into too small and then you realize it's too small? Now let's merge it back.
I had cases where it was splitted.
Yeah.
And then we realized that we want to do it in another way, but it was a pretty big application. And now you need some stuff to leave it in that application, some stuff to move in another application. But as I said, it was two big applications and it was not easy.
Yeah, the weirdest shit is when you have this dual state and you need to have some kind of dual write. We're writing in two places, and at some point we're gonna cut the cord and start using the new stuff, you know.
Yeah, and you usually need it when you don't want to have downtime on somewhere, and you are writing in two places. And these dual writes usually is not an easy thing to do,
especially keeping that thing synchronized.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a mess because I think I've experienced that in the past, and it was really fragile.
Yeah, that's true, and it's a problem that it's hard to solve, if not impossible.
Yeah. You mentioned, because I asked you about trends, you mentioned also Kafka.
Yeah.
What about Kafka?
I like Kafka, and it is useful, but in big projects when you need it, it helps you. But usually in simple projects, you don't need Kafka. You need Kafka when you want to scale your application to millions of users.
My problem with Kafka, you know what it is? Like, is there a managed solution which is not costing you an arm and an leg? It's like buying, I don't know, storage from Apple. Like, it's so beautiful when you run it in a container, but then when you want to do that in production, like, that's my problem with it. I would look for anything which is like an alternative, like Nats. I think Red Panda does something.
You know what I did? I after work I write code for myself and trying stuff, and I wanted to run Kafka because I wanted to study more about Kafka, and I was looking for some servers at Hetzner to rent them.
They're pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, but then I realized that deploying Kafka in my application will be pretty expensive, even if it's not cloud like AWS, which is more expensive.
Yeah.
And I bought some used servers, and I bought a rack and UPS, and they built a private cloud using CloudStack from Apache, where I'm running Kafka, because otherwise it's too expensive.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing with like some of my projects. I just run them and I put the fucking server in like the closet, and I don't see it and I don't care.
Yeah.
And it's just cheaper. And I mean, that thing is like, especially with, what was the name of the biggest Kafka provider? Was it
CloudFormation?
No, it's Confluent.
Confluent, yeah.
Yeah, Confluent. Dude, that thing is so expensive.
I mean, if you have money, if you are a big company, probably you can afford it, and it will offer you some stability. They will offer you support and expertise. But otherwise, if you are small,
yeah. But like the annoying part for me when I was using Kafka was the whole deduplication thing. Then the partitions. Like, they can grow, they cannot shrink. Like, you need to be careful right away how many partitions you have.
Right.
And if it's like an early stage project, you can, I guess, drop it and create like a new one with smaller partitions. But if you created a big topic with like a lot of partitions, then you can only go up, you cannot go down. And all of these things, which kind of seem weird to me. Whereas if you take Nats, for example, not sure if you tried it or not.
No, I don't.
It's like similar in many ways how it works when it comes to Kafka, but also different, especially around like topics, which is what they call subjects. And you could have like, in a way, dynamic topics where you could write in different locations. You could also write with idempotency. For example, if you've written something and that same exact message with that ID was already written, maybe you don't want to write it again, right? Because what's happening with Kafka is like you push the same message to that topic, and then you have like a bunch of subscribers reading that, and then they have to figure out if they need that message or not.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's like the annoying part for me, because I was doing this for like we were doing this for a gaming studio, and we were like, I was scheduling game servers in the cloud, and I remember like a small fuck up, because like there were like a bunch of like Kubernetes clusters in the GCP, and then a bunch of clusters deployed on premise. And I remember one of the subscribers was just consuming messages which wasn't supposed to consume. And you like schedule a message, and it's supposed to like schedule a server in the cloud, but it scheduled a fucking server in the bare metal machine. And you're like, where's the fucking server? Why can't I have a server? But the server was scheduled somewhere else because the message was picked up. Like whichever consumer picks it up first, then it consumes it, it acknowledges it, and then it says, okay, I read the message,
The good part about Kafka is that it scales well.
Yeah.
And when you have a lot of traffic, it scales. It's true that a lot of stuff you have to do it manually as an engineer, and it includes these dual reads when you will read multiple messages because someone forgot to acknowledge, to commit it.
Right.
And also you have to take care about duplicates. You have to deduplicate somehow manually. It doesn't offer you a solution.
Yeah.
Also, you have to probably think, as you said, about partitions, about topics, about size. It's a lot of manual work, but it scales.
Yeah, it's like a statically typed language for queues and event bus stuff. What would you say? Because you mentioned not every project needs to go Kafka. What would you say? Let's say if you wanted stored messages, what would you say are some solutions around that?
So currently I'm using RabbitMQ for something similar for my projects. I don't know if it's...
Because I believe Redis has like this queue stuff, but it's like a queue and it's not like a persistent queue. So if you write a message and if there's like a consumer of the message, cool. If not, then it's lost. And it's like, it's okay if you want queues, which like count on availability. But at the same time, if you want like, let's say you have transactions, right? It's important to have that stored as a message and have the guarantee that it was stored in the file system.
I mean, I'm using RabbitMQ for one of my projects, but it's not a public one. It's not in production. I know I'm producing a lot of messages. I'm reading them, but I cannot say that it is good for a big project. It definitely works, but I don't have enough experience.
Do they have like managed solutions for that?
Yeah, they have. There are people selling it.
Because the reason I'm asking about managed solution is like you can suggest the best database, the best message queue, the best anything out there. As long as it's not managed, businesses are kind of skeptical of trying it, if you know what I mean.
I think there is an abstraction around or on top of RabbitMQ. It's called AMPQ.
Yeah.
And probably there are managed solutions for this. And what's under the hood, I'm not sure. Maybe it's RabbitMQ, maybe it's something else.
Because like the rationale is, why do I need to pay like a DevOps engineer to manage that infrastructure when I can have Amazon or Google Cloud manage it for me, right?
Usually it is cheaper to have a managed service, bought from AWS, let's say. It doesn't make sense to buy it once you are big and you have a lot of traffic. Probably it is cheaper for you to have a DevOps person that will take care about a cluster instead of buying it managed because it's expensive.
Yeah, my problem with that is like, because I've seen this. I'm not sure if you're watching DHH.
No,
it's like the creator of Ruby on Rails. And he posted this story about how they exited the cloud, basically. And he was showcasing how the cost they had on buying their own infrastructure, their own servers, actually bought itself in like 1 year because of how big they were. And their problem was exiting the cloud, meaning all the backups, downloading. Like, it's very convenient, and that's like the sneaky way the clouds do it. It's very convenient to store the information, but once you reach like a big storage, let's say amount of storage on the cloud, it's really hard to exit because it's a lot more expensive to download that information than to keep uploading to their cloud, basically.
Yeah, I also heard this kind of stories where cloud is pretty expensive. Companies that have money, they're using it because makes business easier for them.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't know, it doesn't make sense to use cloud.
What's your opinion of the AWS fiasco which happened?
Like
Like everything went down that day.
Yeah, we were affected as well. So the company where I'm working.
Yeah.
And I heard different rumors on the internet, like they fired some people and they lost knowledge about how to manage that. I'm not sure what happened.
There was like this meme where there was like the guy sitting at the graveyard, and there was like a text saying when you claim that your server is using multi-AZ, but in reality everything was deployed in the US East.
Yeah, US East 1.
Yeah.
And yeah, it affected a lot of services, like services that I'm using. I think Spotify was affected.
Yeah, like pretty much everything was down that day. My question would be, did companies, maybe including your company, consider moving away from AWS? Maybe distributing a little bit?
We were not affected so much. Like the main services were up, they didn't went down.
Like imagine if you, for example, if you were Binance or some kind of crypto exchange, and AWS fell for like, let's say, I don't exactly recall for how much time it went down.
It was almost one day, like one full.
Yeah, like that's
day.
a lot of fucking wasted money.
Yeah. I heard other companies talking about like we need to think about backup solutions. What happens if our hosting goes down? I'm not sure what they will do, but definitely we need to think about this, because nowadays everything depends on these cloud providers. And what if they don't go down, but they decide not to do business with you? What do you do next?
Yeah, either like, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're a business and you have some political opinion, but Amazon, Google, and all of these companies tend to lead towards like the Democratic Party a lot of the times. As you said, what if they choose to like ignore you?
I know a story of a guy who had a Google account, and for some reason his account was removed, but he used the single sign-on from Google, and he lost access to many services. And I think he was a developer, and he couldn't like work because of his account being removed. I'm not sure if he was a bad guy or a good guy, but the idea is that we depend so much on these external services that we need to think about.
Yeah, it's very easy to like to just be cancelled in a way, like you just no longer have access to anything. And I think with like this era of AI, we started taking privacy maybe a little bit more importantly, more serious. Because I was like previously, okay, I'm just gonna deploy something in the cloud. Fine, that's cool. But then everyone was doing that, and then you have one of these fuck ups, and like, okay, maybe I should deploy some of the stuff at home. You know, it's not that expensive actually. Just pay the electricity bill, and I like to do this for like personal projects, as you said. It's just cheaper than to have it in the cloud.
And related to this AI era, like I is the same for me. I didn't care too much about privacy. I was thinking that it's okay. I'm just a random guy from the planet. There are a lot of people on this planet. And then this AI, which used public information to train their models.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking maybe it's time to think more about what I'm saying, what I'm writing.
True. Like even like I'm so pedantic to the point where if some people want to show me something on YouTube, I like open a brand new incognito mode tab. I don't give them my YouTube account, because if they search something in my account, I know for a fact that tomorrow I'll get some fucking ads on like Facebook and whatnot, and you just get targeted everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. And they are creating connection between us. Like this guy looked this, then looked this, and maybe we will promote to him this
yeah,
product.
And then imagine the people who are like texting, LLMing, with like they're just texting, I don't know, using LLMs for like personal motivational speakers, and then like for like therapists and whatnot, doctors, like they just ask for advice. It's just crazy, like how like some people don't even think that data is just being collected. You know, I'm more concerned at least.
Yeah. Did you hear about like this messengers use like listening to what we're saying, and then suddenly you see a banner or something with a product that like
they have this like encryption is funny. First of all, I'll say that I don't think there's like services that I can fully trust on encryption. And then when I say encryption, I don't mean like TLS. I mean end-to-end encryption.
Yeah.
And they have this notion of like they claim that they can use certain parts of your conversation as targetable for targetable ads or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what that actually means is they have access to what you're actually texting people, right? And even if it says end-to-end encrypted, right, it's not really end-to-end encrypted because they store the encryption keys. They know how to decrypt it basically, and as a result, parts of the conversations that you're having with your friends, for example, just end up targeting you or them for like ads that you see on Google, YouTube, Facebook, and whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't even fucking, especially like Meta. I don't trust Meta one single point. Like I'm just being there to like post my videos. Fuck off.
I know that, for example, Apple, even if I buy a machine from them, that machine is sending some data permanently to Apple, and I'm not sure what they are sending, what that machine is doing.
I think it's like I'm not sure if you have this Apple ID thing connected.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it's nice, but I have this like shared clipboard across all devices. It's convenient, but I guess they're like sending a lot of data, which is why I guess Microsoft is trying to push this same idea of, not sure if you heard, but they want to push this. They want to remove support for offline accounts. So they want to enforce that all Windows machine can only log in with like accounts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's no way for you to, at least I'm not sure if that's gonna stay, but at least that's like the plan.
Now, well, imagine you have the hardware, but it's just that hardware that does nothing without an operating system.
True.
And now that operating system, it's not yours; it just runs on your hardware.
And I was like talking to different other people, and I was hearing people that I know they've been like Windows fanboys for life.
Mm-hmm.
They are seriously considering moving to Linux. Yeah, which is like I would have probably moved to Linux long since. I just fucking hate that I have like a 5090 in my like Windows machine, works perfectly fine. You plug the same 5090 in like Ubuntu, you install Ubuntu, it looks like shit. And it's the same fucking drivers written by NVIDIA. For some reason, it works beautifully on Windows. You put it on Linux, it doesn't look good. It's like 720p or something. It looks pretty creepy. I don't know, like we'll see what happens. It's just for me, it's a concern, like the privacy. And I see like monopolies such as Apple, Microsoft, that trying to get more and more control over the data, over what you can do, what you cannot do, and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. I feel the same.
Yeah. We were talking about AI and slightly started opening this Pandora box. And I say we should open it all the way. Today, again, before I was meeting you, I was like, okay, let me see what else I can prepare maybe for. Started scrolling Facebook a little bit, and then I see an ad. Obviously, it was targeted for me, and the girl was like, if you're a software engineer, if you're doing whatever you're doing, and you have the salary range and whatnot, then there's like a risk that in 18 months or so, what you're doing becomes obsolete, and 80% of what you're doing will be written by LLMs. So what you should be doing instead is focusing on being a software architect. Obviously, sign up for their bullshit, start following their shit, and then you become a software architect, which is supposedly going to give you like a safer spot in the job market. What's your opinion of this trend being pushed that like developers become obsolete? Are we at the point where we are cutting people left and right and replacing them with automation?
So my opinion in this on this area is that AI definitely is going to improve the speed of our work, and we need more knowledge in order to be up with the market, with what happens around us. but I don't see how it can replace us. I'm using it like day by day. I tried to use it for my work. I use it for my personal projects. And if you don't know exactly what you want and what you are doing, somehow it starts saying that yes, you are right. Yes, you are right.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't know how to say no.
yeah, it goes in the completely wrong direction. And if you cannot control it and move it back to the right direction, it will develop and implement some stuff like Cursor AI will write a lot of code for you, but that code it's not maintainable. It's not about this. It's about that it doesn't work as it should work,
Yeah,
and it doesn't do what it should do. I don't think it's going to replace us, but definitely it's going to challenge us. Like we need more knowledge. We need to stay up to date to stay
You
sharp.
mentioned like work, improving work as augmenting work, maybe becoming like one together. So if previously we were doing it ourselves, now we delegate the routine, we
Yeah,
delegate the boring stuff. My question is, are there companies who secretly try to maybe, because like if you remember the days when we had like PHP developers and we were doing a lot of stuff by hand, and then WordPress came along, and then a bunch of people started losing their jobs, but not in the sense of not no, we no longer need PHP developers, but more like if you have a website, there's this solution, and you don't need to spend this many hours or days. You can just do it in a bunch of clicks, and you start posting, you start doing blog posting, right?
I feel it's more like a body that helps you, and you can. It's like a junior developer that you can give it to work and it will do, but you need to review it. You need to permanently monitor it, and uh, it is going to replace some of us, but I don't think it's going to replace the people that are actually thinking and trying to understand what they are doing and understanding the architecture and how computer work. It's going to replace people that think that like they have a mindset when they think that I'm going to do it fast, I'm going to gain money from this, and I'm going to leave. I don't think it's going to work anymore like this.
It's funny that you say that, because I was speaking the other day with somebody, and they told me how they got into tech. They said it was right from the high school. They were doing algorithmic problems, and they prided themselves in like knowing algorithms, knowing efficient ways of doing things. And they said that because of AI, now they no longer feel as motivated, because any LLM can pick up any algorithm, especially the popular ones. And yeah, I'm trying to think to what extent, because I know that a lot of like there's a lot of hype, right? A lot of hype, which is a lot of bullshit, in the sense that you still need people. You're working with people, you're building things for people. And yes, you can have like, let's say, templated projects, right? Not every project is complex. Some projects are good old websites which want to launch, or simple applications which like present some options. There's no business logic, there's no backend, none of that stuff. Even some simple things you can like LLM your way into it, even deploy them and whatnot. But then you start hitting roadblocks. Then this thing needs to scale well. Then you start to like confront yourself with actual business problems, and then you need people like us who've been doing this for the entire
Yeah,
life.
I think the same. Like you can build a initial version without too many or without any software engineers, but at one moment, if your business goes well, you want to scale it, and most probably you will need people with experience that can understand what's there, how to scale it, because otherwise it's going to be hard. And you know how I am thinking about this AI stuff. I don't know exactly what happened during the uh, industrialization era,
That's a good point. That's a good point.
when people like we started to have more and more machines. Some people lost their work, but in general stuff became cheaper and people started to live better.
Yeah, we had trains. We had like nobody's doing blacksmiths. We have like streamlined processes. And you're right. Like everything became cheaper. Are we in the transition of, let's say, experiencing the good part, the good side of AI boom?
Yeah, so sometimes I want to think that it's similar. It's something that happens in this area that is similar with what happened in the past, and maybe after that we will have new jobs, and our jobs will be maybe easier, or maybe we will work less and do more stuff. Like the result at the end of the day, uh, we have like more implemented, something better.
Do you believe in this idea of, because some people talk about general person income, where like you have, like you reach a point of development as a society and industrialization and AI doing everything and automation, and everything is automated and done for you, that people are no longer required, and the government just gives you like a wage you can spend on whatever.
Was never thinking about this, but
Yeah.
it's maybe far away in the future. We still have a lot of stuff to discover, to invent. We don't understand yet the world around us. We don't know yet how to fix us. Like medicine is not fully developed, and maybe we will invest in this area. We will study us. We will know how to to improve stuff around us and to feel better. Not that we will not work at all.
Yeah.
We will work smarter and probably have a better life.
Yeah, because they're like jobs, like people working jobs that barely struggle to feed themselves. Like imagine if everyone was just have free access to food, because everything's so cheap, because everything's so automated. Like there's, I don't know, fucking government bots who are doing like agriculture, for example, and it's just giving free quotas to everyone. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not very optimistic about the future, I would say, that much. Still think and believe that we pride ourselves and glorify ourselves for work. So we still need to do some kind of work. Otherwise, what's the purpose of life, I would say? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think maybe next step as a civilization is to go to a planet, try to live there. I
Yeah.
was reading a book. It's called Foundation by Isaac Asimov, and he's describing a world where people are living in the whole universe, and maybe we will do this once we understand.
Should we colonize Mars?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, those are
We'll see. Probably we will not see, but next generations.
Yeah, there are some people who even say that with all these AI startups and companies running for who's going to be the leader in the AI boom, obviously they don't have unlimited fuel, and when I say fuel, I mean funding.
Yeah,
like some of the funding is going to run out, and let's say if they reach like a threshold, a capacity of innovation, this thing might not, like we might be left with what we have at the moment, like the models we have at the moment, and there's no more progress when it comes to that.
I heard that they are like investing a lot of money in these models. They are not cheap to train. You need energy, you need people, you need knowledge. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And also I heard that maybe the future is not about having a big model that knows everything. Maybe the future is about smaller models that they can run on premise. They can run on your machine, and they can solve your problems locally without going to the cloud. I was reading about this as well.
I mean, I'm already, I would say, doing that. Like, I love the fact that, because like it's some kind of industrialization, but like on a smaller scale, because more companies, like big companies, are running for it. They're pushing their own free models out there, open source models, and then you can deploy some kind of Olama at home and just deploy any, like load any model you want in you have like local AI in your home base, and you don't have to, unless of course there's like some hidden code, but since it's open source, it's easy to detect. But basically you have AI and privacy at the same time.
Yeah, I was trying to do this. The only problem is that you need a graphical card. I was
True.
running it on CPU, and it's pretty slow on CPU.
The beauty is you can put it like in a server even, and you have like a, I don't know, a Linux server running like a GPU. Yeah. And you don't need like crazy graphics, because you're just using the CUDA cores directly, and it's no like you don't have weird fucking pixels displayed differently on Linux, on because you're not really working with that in that sense.
Yeah,
you're using just the computational power.
Yeah, you can do this.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I find it interesting. Although I've seen some like review of the new NVIDIA like home, what was it called, home AI lab or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and it didn't perform very well. Yeah,
I have a laptop from 2015. It's a pretty old one, but I bought it at that time with thinking that I will go in this direction with AI,
yeah,
which I did not. I choose Java,
yeah.
but I tried now to run a model on that computer, and it runs much better when you have a GPU than if you have a CPU.
No, that's for sure. Like, because there's some huge models out there which you cannot run.
And because it was a laptop, I turned off the display. I was using it as a server with Linux on it, and
Yeah.
I was running a model, and I was thinking that maybe it's a better idea to run it locally. It worked well, but then it became obsolete. Like new models were available, and now I'm using a paid one.
We started touching on AI, and you mentioned that it's easy to bootstrap like any idea, prototype it, put it out there on the market, then hire professionals to maintain that product. My question, which is quite obvious, is: are juniors doomed in this case? Like, who would need juniors if anyone can just download an LLM, like maybe even go pro, pay like a subscription for a really good LLM, do everything themselves, put it out there, start making money. They hit some problems, they hire professionals, pay the professionals instead.
I don't think they are doomed. We still need juniors, but
Yeah.
I feel like when I was a junior, it was easier for me to enter the market because we needed, or at that time we needed more software engineers, and companies were hiring. Now, as a junior, you need more knowledge. You have to study more. It's harder for you.
Yeah, at the time, the way to scale a product is more people. Now, the way to scale a product is maybe more automation.
Yeah, more automation, better models,
Yeah.
and a fewer people, but with more knowledge and like people that studied more.
What are you saying, that you cannot be a simple junior? You need to be like an exceptional one, maybe?
I want to say that it's harder now for a junior to find a job. As a person, you have to invest more in you, in studying, in becoming better, if you want to have a job in this area.
Do you see juniors, like, do you have juniors at your company?
Yes, we have a junior right now.
What would you say is the biggest problem that they hit?
Probably it's understanding the product. Like you have these models, you can say you can discuss with them and they will implement your code, but before implementing the code you have to actually understand the problem that the business wants to solve.
Right.
And probably this is the hard part. Like you need to understand how this product works, what companies does, and then after you understand it right, you can use a model to implement it.
You mentioned that it was easier as a junior back in the day, and I can agree, with like a small exception, that back in the day, if something didn't work, you still had to bang your head over the wall, like scroll every, I don't know, Stack Overflow thread, any GitHub issue or thread, whatever you see, like whatever you find. You've even clicked like the second and third page on Google. If you can find anything that's useful, then you would read that. And nowadays, there's no much reading going on because everything is like one or two prompts.
Yeah.
One or two prompts, quickly do it and forget about it. Like, yeah, we get things faster, but is faster necessarily better in this case?
So I remember myself scrolling and looking on Stack Overflow
Yeah.
like every day. I was looking for something, trying to figure it out. Now, if I have a similar problem, I just ask an LLM to look at the code and tell me what can be the problem
Yeah.
and list possible options. And it's not solving the problem for me, but it's looking so fast at the code and it's proposing me options that back in the days it took me maybe one
No,
day
it's definitely a good thing. I will tell you that I really love that. Like, it's so easy to prototype. I have an idea, I say, give me options. I'm like, nah, this is bullshit, that's bullshit, but I like that one. Develop that one more. I write a new prompt, say, I want this that you gave me earlier, develop it, and then I can start to go from there. And obviously, I didn't spend a lot of time looking this up on Google, finding a lot of bullshit articles, filtering through them, and then figuring out that this is what I want to do. Let alone, let's say I find an article back in the day, and that was written in Python. I don't know any fucking Python. Like now I need to understand Python in order to figure out the idea that a guy who only knew Python wrote it in some article. With LLMs, it's easy. Like convert this to I don't know, to Java, right? It's gonna do a very good job at that. Easy done, super quick. I love that. At the same time, as you mentioned, it thinks like a junior in many ways. So it doesn't always touch on the right solution, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it.
Have you? I don't know, because a lot of people start to talk about. I mean, it's been on the market for a while, but a lot of people like push this idea of agents. Have you experimented with it? Maybe like what's your opinion on this? Is it a good thing?
I'm using an agent by myself. It's like my body.
Yeah.
And also at the company, we are using agents that are doing some stuff that we used to do manually in the past. They are doing automatically. They are creating pull requests, running tests, and making sure that their pull request is good. Maybe there is another agent that is reviewing the code, and then it's asking a real person to review that code. And once you review it, you can like merge it and have it to the code.
So you review, like, does it write the code itself?
Yeah, it writes code.
Interesting.
And we use it for simple tasks. Like let's say that you want to have your dependencies updated to use the latest versions.
Right.
Sometimes when you want to update a dependency, you can break your code. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It will update the dependency. It will run tests. It will see that tests are failing, and it can try to like fix something, or it can just stop and do.
So is it running on like the whole code base?
Yeah.
Yeah. The next question would be in that case. So is this like a product you own, or a product you're developing for somebody else?
No, it's an internal tool.
Okay, I see. Because my next question would have been like privacy. Because if you're doing it for other clients might say, hey, you don't use AI to train on our code, for example, right? In that case, you might have like a small issue, and you need to somehow obfuscate the context, give it like a small context, and then it gives you like a generic solution. Then you copy paste it. But yeah, it's interesting.
We are using models that are paid and the company pays for them.
Yeah.
And I hope that they are not using the code base to train their model and will show suggestions to other developers on how to do stuff.
I think I've seen this like message. I don't exactly remember when, but I've seen a message that somebody has seen his suggestion in like Copilot or some other LLM, because at some point he pasted some lines of code. And sometimes I would even have this weird auto completion, like when you're like using Copilot and whatnot. In JetBrains, at least it works that way. You type like in like a comment or whatever, and it starts to fill it in. And every single time I would begin a comment with specific words, every single time it would auto-complete it the exact same way.
Yeah, I observed this.
Yeah, and it makes me think that this like exact word match like matches to some prompt or some response which was pasted from somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, this is like I'm still questioning how exactly this works. Is it like tailored to users, countries? Is there any kind of targeting before it gives you the prompt? Like
maybe initially it was just a classical LLM.
Yeah.
And now once it evolved, they understood how business works, how they can sell it. Maybe they are targeting us somehow. They are giving us better responses if we are paying more. I'm not sure.
Yeah. What's your opinion of the browser thing?
I tried Atlas from OpenAI. To be honest, I don't like it. I'm afraid that like you are seeing what I'm seeing. You know my data. I'm logged into an account.
It's just like another way to feed more data for them. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and I heard Firefox. It's adding a special feature to the browser, which is called an AI tab. You can open
that's a fun way.
A classical tab, and you can open a tab with an AI agent.
But like my problem would be like, What if they say it's an AI tab and they're collecting the data, but in reality, all the tabs are AI tabs? It's just a UI thing, you know?
Yeah. I was not thinking that Mozilla, who implements Firefox, will do this. They used to be more like focused on privacy.
Yeah.
But nowadays, with this AI stuff, I'm thinking maybe they are.
Yeah, like one way or the other, every company out there relies on funding.
Yeah.
And what I see is AI is kind of pushed down the throat of all the products out there, especially like digital products. And like if you're not doing any kind of AI this, AI that, you're kind of not relevant on the market.
Yeah.
And the contrary, if you're a product which is relatively successful, it didn't need AI to begin with, but you're adding it, you can brag about it and you can boost your product. You can, in a way, market your product for free.
Yeah,
by saying that you added AI.
That's true. This is what happens. And sometimes there are products that they don't need AI, but people are adding AI just because everyone says that they are using AI.
Like I said, I love innovation, and I was on the side of it every single day ever since I started coding, ever since the junior days. But then as you become more seniors, you slowly like begin to push back more and more. I guess there's like a thin line between comfort zone and being more mature, actually seeing what are the good trends you need to follow, what are the bad ones, at the same time not staying in the comfort zone. And I find it hard to balance, and sometimes I would question myself, like am I too old school maybe already? Have I been too long on the market? Do I need to like maybe adapt, maybe adopt new trends, styles and whatnot?
Yeah, sometimes I feel the same.
Yeah.
And I want to look at the younger people to see what they are doing, and maybe they are doing something better than me, and I should learn from them, because I'm afraid of going in this comfort zone.
Yeah.
Where maybe it's not even right, but I stayed there and I don't like evolve, and I don't learn new stuff.
Yeah, because there's this distinction, I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, where like especially like company managers, they say yeah, all the seniors are pushing back on AI, on automation and whatnot, and they kind of tend to tell the message that there's the new generation, the younger generation, the juniors, let's call them, who are like more open to this, embracing of this, because I guess they have no choice. But at the same time, as you said, like I'm looking at them, I'm like, am I missing on something? Am I still relevant? Do I want to maybe pick up some secondary skills? And like the good part about this AI boom is it makes you question your relevance, right? How relevant you are, is what you're doing still useful for the society, for the community you're living in? And yeah, I guess it may force some good positive outcome. You may be developing new skills and whatnot.
Yeah,
definitely a lot to explore.
I would say that sometimes there are these senior people that are pushing back on this AI, and they have their truth. They are not completely wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes this AI, maybe if initially it helps you, it guides you in the wrong direction, and because you are not carefully reviewing what it did, you realize later that you introduced a bug, and maybe you lost money, company lost money because of this AI. And the true stuff, or the truth is it's somewhere in between. It's not that you have to use AI or not to use it. You have to use it to improve your work, to improve your skills, but you have to be careful about it.
Yeah, more so like I'm not pushing against it. I'm more pushing against, let's get rid of people, right? Like we live on the planet Earth, dealing with people every single day, and everything we build, whether it's going to be us or the machines, we're building it for the people. And yeah, and I think we've come to the point where we started to value people we started to value the relationship between people more, with especially with the whole AI boom. And you could especially see this when somebody's messaging you, like you start paying attention on how the message is written, and whether that was written with like a bot, automated some kind of way, or it's actually a genuine message from a person who exists, who actually cares about you and is asking the question.
Yeah, that's true. And I like more, even if a message is not like so beautifully written as an AI does.
Yeah.
It's like you feel that it's written by a human. And I also observed this without thinking about this, but I'm looking at this.
Yeah, like it's, I guess, the beauty of us humans that we are not perfect, And like even when I'm doing like, once the video is ready, I'm like, okay, let me publish it. I'm like, let me write it in such a way so that I I call on human attention, and it doesn't sound like it's a bot who wrote it or like a fucking LLM. And yeah, it's just funny that we went away from like being antisocial COVID times, and then getting back closer to actually wanting to deal with people and having human interaction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard an interesting story that AI is becoming smarter and smarter, and these big companies, when they are like building a model before releasing it to the public, they are like testing it. They are making sure that it's a good one that can be released and can be used.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a set of tests that they are running, and those tests are kind of prompts that they are writing, and they are expecting responses. And in order to make sure that it doesn't misbehave, let's say it like this, they are writing prompts, and they are trying to like switch context. Like you told me this, now what do you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
And the LLM will tell his opinion, and then it will say that you are not right, you have to think like this. And I heard about a story when an LLM like responded that you are testing me. Why you are testing me? You just said something different earlier.
Yeah.
And it was like a moment when they realized that maybe we have to be more careful about how we're implementing them, because if they realize that we are testing them, they may respond in the testing environment as we expect them to respond, and when we release them for public use,
And they become sentient in a way.
yeah.
Yeah, that's also another part which some people like Elon Musk believe that it's gonna become sentient, and we need to like restrict it and become like be more careful maybe in a way.
I think this was the scope of the OpenAI initially, and then later somehow it became a commercial company.
Yeah. I think that's why like Elon Musk pulled the funding,
Yeah.
because they started, like he says that they started to be more pro, let's say, pro commerce, pro making money, whereas initially they wanted to be more like safety and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which is it's funny how the things evolved, I guess.
I don't know if in every area or in every domain people are discussing about AI, but in software engineering, like every discussion has a bit of AI.
No, like even fucking like take the parliament and whatnot. Like even they're LLMing their way.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's just that common. You see it everywhere, basically. Whether it's like, I mean, for the consumer, for the average consumer, I guess it's like ChatGPT and like, let's say, public/available free models. But for like the software world, like the software world is obviously more demanding. It like goes way ahead, like using APIs, more advanced models and whatnot. But it's gonna catch up to the public, I would say.
I was never thinking that it will happen like this.
Yeah, it's funny. Same with like phones. Now every grandma is on like TikTok liking shit.
Yeah.
There's so much AI stuff to cover, but there's so many other topics I also want to cover. I mean, we're definitely gonna do a V2. We need to fucking drink some wine, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Today you're leaving with a bottle, but next time we're doing one, we should do it like on actual sipping. Like it needs to smell like wine in here.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah. Shall we maybe go into some company culture stuff? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not asking you to shit about companies you've worked for, but what would you say is something which you don't like about being a software engineer? Is it meetings? Is it something else? Like, what's your thing?
So in general, as a software engineer, I feel like it's important to work with people that understand the business.
Right.
And like any software engineer. I don't like meetings. But it's not that I don't like all the meetings. I don't like those meetings that they are not necessary. They can be replaced with a message or even with
this could have been an email.
yeah. I don't like them because they're like, it's not usually one-on-one. It's a few people sitting there. Someone it's presenting something that can be like shared with us. We will spend less time on understanding it, and then we can like do our jobs and we can take back our lives instead of sitting on a random meeting.
Yeah. Have you heard of the cocktail effect?
No, I have not.
So basically the cocktail effect in meetings is when everybody is minding their own fucking business, and then they might hear their name, something they worked on or something which is concerning to them, and then they pay attention. Yeah, outside of that, they're like minding their own thing, coding some stuff, and then they hear their name and like, oh, my name. I go pick up my cocktail, like at the party.
Yeah.
Which is funny, especially when you have like meetings with more than 10 people involved, and maybe a third of them are actually speaking and are being involved. Everyone else is just minding their own business. And if you add in the factor that you can like turn off your camera, your microphone, then nobody can see what you're doing. You might be minding your own business, not even be present, not even hearing what they're saying.
So for sure, I've done this when I'm in a meeting, I'm writing code.
Yeah.
And when I hear my name or something related that somehow my brain understands that it's for me, I will pay attention. And even with the camera on, I will keep the camera on. I will look at the camera, but I will write code.
Like it also depends how the camera is positioned, because if you have like because I know some people that don't use like the camera from the laptop, which usually like faces directly forward to you, but have like some forward camera and they're like looking way in the other direction, and it's like they completely don't pay attention to the camera.
Sometimes I feel like if I'm going to write that code, if I'm going to solve that ticket that I have, I will solve a business problem, and at the end of the day, I will feel like I did something. I will feel better than participating in a meeting that it's not for me. I have nothing to say there. It's like,
yeah, sometimes I feel like, especially when it's like even a meeting which is concerning me, I'm like, guys, I could have already done it instead of just talking about how we can do it.
Yeah.
It's done, like, and like, what would you say are some ceremonies? Because I would assume you follow some kind of a Scrum / Agile methodology. What would you say are some ceremonies which, let's call them useless maybe, or like not the most productive for a company?
So definitely I think that synchronizing with the product of the business, it's important, but there are like sometimes there are too many meetings, too many stuff that is discussed, and if people are not prepared enough for it, they are like spending the time trying to present something that can be like written in a Confluence doc. Everyone can read it and they can have a 15 minutes sync meeting and they can discuss this. And about the ceremonies, I'm not sure which one are right or wrong.
Like let's take for example a retrospective. Is that a productive one? When people raise some, let's say, negative feedback, is that taken into account, or is just like a check mark? We did it, move on.
So in my experience, we tried to keep these retrospectives not very big.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to record a demo video to present what we did. But to be honest, sometimes they are not saying or helping me in any way.
Yeah, especially if there's like, I want to have retrospectives only focusing on what went wrong. If nothing went wrong, that's it. That's the meeting done.
I don't think that will help us somehow. We can mention if something went wrong, if there was a post-mortem or something that was written and we need to discuss how to avoid.
But you could make like a separate meeting for that and only take this, that, and that guy.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I don't think it's necessary to do this in a retrospective meeting. And I even know companies that are doing retrospective meetings where they are like discussing stuff for so long, and I don't understand why they are taking.
Yeah, they have like columns. What went well, what went not so well, and what we can improve on.
Yeah, and it's not optional. You have to put something there, even if you don't have anything.
And then you have to vote on it, and then reveal the votes, and then discuss every single point on the note.
I think this is when maybe companies are growing very big, and maybe some managers think that this is somehow helping the team.
Yeah.
But now with this AI era and how jobs are merging, like you used to be a software engineer, now you can take care about your tickets and you have to understand the business. This will, or I hope this will somehow go away, and less companies will use it.
Yeah. You mentioned meetings and like not everyone necessarily having to be in them. And my question would be, especially around understanding business, like I've seen different models, different approaches, where on the one hand you have everyone involved and everyone knows what's happening, but nobody really cares. At some point, if you were to ask each individual person what did we discuss, probably not all of them would be able to tell. And on the other hand, you have dedicated people, like I don't know, some kind of team lead, tech lead, whatever. They discuss like the business, they come back to the team and say we should do this and that. And let's say the engineers focus more on what should be done technically, and they deal less with people, with business people in particular. Like, what would you say is the balance here? Should we have more people knowing, or everyone knowing on paper, or should we maybe allow people like engineers to focus more on the work, and everybody else or some key people being involved in like decision making, sitting in long meetings with the business people, the customers and whatnot?
So my opinion on this is that when you have a good software engineer, you have to explain him the problem, the business problem. Like, we are here, we want to go there, and maybe you can ask even him what are the steps that we can do to achieve to go there. And it's not about what are the steps from the business perspective. He's not going to sell the product. He's going to implement the product, and you have to ask a software engineer, like, we want to achieve this state, propose us a few technical solutions or a few options on how we can achieve this. Give to that software engineer some time. He will prepare a technical design with a few options, and let him like tell the story, tell you about the options, about the what are the pros of doing this, what are the cons of doing this. Listen to him, and if he will understand the problem, he will solve the or will implement the right solution from the start.
Yeah.
If you are translating this business problem to another product manager who is not technical enough to understand the problem, and then that product manager is responsible for managing a few software engineers to do the right thing, probably not all of them will understand it right, and it will take a few iterations to reach the desired point.
I'm rather like, let's say if I'm in the position of just a software engineer, not leading anything, not discussing with anyone, I love this. Like, I love some guy or some person above me who's gonna take all the meetings, all the shit, which is like business related. And then he may come down to me and say, this is what we should do. What do you think would be the proper solution? So basically what happened is he summarized everything that went down in meetings into like a sentence or two. Or maybe he comes back to the team, like there's a team channel or something. He says, this is the summary of the discussion with the client or with some business people up the top. We should do this. Give us your opinions, estimates, proper solutions, and whatnot. Instead of involving 10 to 15 people in a meeting, and then at the end, everybody is even more confused about what the client wants.
So I am mostly used to working in startups because I worked for a long time in a startup company. And in our case, we have usually a software engineering team, and we have a product team that is doing what you are describing right now. But there are cases when we understand that, for example, sales understand that there is a possible vertical where they can sell more the product. And I like this fact when they are describing, like, this is what we observed that our clients want. Maybe we can implement this. And then they give you full responsibility, even without a product manager. Like, you are discussing directly with a salesperson. You are trying to implement something, And once they realize that this can be like sold to clients, they will involve more people. And it's like you feel like just one person company who's implementing a small feature in that area, and if it works, then it will involve more people. I like this kind of work.
Yeah, I would say this is like something really powerful. At the same time, it grows you a lot because you can basically morph business with actual software engineering with only one exception. The exception would be allow me to fucking do it right. Like, if you give me the full autonomy on what the solution will be, at least give me the time I'm going to say it's going to take.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just prefer to have a layer of like protection type of shit. And he'll just say, we need to do this. I'll tell him how much time is it going to take. Or if we have like a startup, which I really love, is at least I am given the autonomy. And when I say autonomy, I also mean not only like deciding on what the solution is, but also maybe having a say in how much time it's going to take, because you might say it's going to take this much, and then the managers will make like a weird look and say, no, fuck that, we need to cut it in like twice or whatever. And then you end up delivering somewhat of what you thought it should be delivered, but not. Maybe you're cutting some corners, maybe. Yeah. And like what's your, since you mentioned this idea of working more in startups, what would you say is your biggest struggle?
I think my biggest struggle is giving estimates.
Yeah.
Like when people are asking me for estimates because it's a startup, I want to be like to work fast, to deliver it fast. But on the other hand, I understand that if I will deliver it fast, I may cut some corners. And there is all the times there is some like you have to think how I can do this, deliver something to the product to so that they can touch it, to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I need more work on that area. And what I'm trying to do in the last years, I'm trying to deliver in iterations. Like initially, I cut some corners, I give them something, they see how it works, and then I'm like describing that this works, but this is not what we want at the end of the day because it will affect customers. You will not be able to sell it maybe. And I'm trying to give it misses this, and it misses this. If you want this, then I need more time. And I'm trying somehow to ask them to give me more time to implement it.
Yeah, that's a really good, I just wanted to say that's a really good sales tip for any developer. So every single time you, as you mentioned, you're asked about deadlines, you're basically forced to give a deadline on the final product, on the final solution, right? So what you can do instead is if you sell a partial solution, they can immediately touch it. At the same time, you basically trap them into the following thing where they want more of you, but you created a problem for them, and they might and basically now you make them choose. You want what you want. It's gonna take a little bit more time,
Blue
but
pill
also
or red pill.
yeah, but also keep in mind that what was done initially, it's not what we want. It's not gonna sustain long term. At the same time, I wanted to like touch on, because you mentioned like cutting corners. I was wondering, how do you cut corners but in such a way that knowing you will have to deal with that code, with that product, it's not like a big pain in the ass?
So usually what I'm trying to do is to trying to cut corners on the features that the product is offering.
Yeah.
But because we have like pretty strict code standards, even the CTO, it's a good programmer.
Mm-hmm.
He wants a good quality code.
Yeah, that's a really good position to be in. I would say even privileged.
Because he thinks that we are writing software now, but this software needs to be maintained for a longer period of time, and even some people might leave the company, but you want to maintain this software. And it's maybe sometimes you're cutting corners from the features that you are offering, but you are trying to have like automated tests. Code should follow the same standards as the other part of the code. You need to have automation and all this kind of stuff. It's important.
Yeah, you don't want to have the bus effect, where if you had a person who knew everything and everything was done by cutting corners, he leaves or he dies or whatever, then nobody else is capable of picking it up after.
Yeah, that's true.
It's always like, for me, it's always a little bit also fun, but also hard to like find the right balance. And you mentioned this idea of estimates. Do you hate being asked when will something be done?
Yeah, and I hate when I'm asked repeatedly. Like I said that it will be done there, and then I had cases when I was asked, "Is it ready?" But it was like a few days.
Yeah, it's like the donkey from Shrek. Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Yeah,
Are we there yet? I'm like, fuck off! Like I told you already. It's not like it's gonna change something, you know.
And it's even more problematic when you are debugging something and it doesn't work, and someone is asking you, "Is it done?" Like I have a
like. It's hard for me to explain how some, especially like when you're working on a bug, right? Like, first things first, the bugs are not estimatable, right? You might immediately know that this is related to that package. I probably know where the problem is. But other times, especially when QAs describe, like, have like a really complex setup before the bug even starts to happen, then you need to replicate the whole thing and say, okay, I can replicate it. Once you replicate it, you might have ideas of how to fix it. But my, I guess, frustration is I'm asked when something will be done when I haven't even been able to replicate something, you know?
Yeah.
That's the hardest.
Or you have to estimate something that you don't know. Like you have a title and maybe you have a short description and you have to estimate it. Like,
what's your safety net for estimating? Do you have like a buffer, magical number which you tell managers and then they don't question it, or like what's the strategy here?
So usually I'm always wrong about my estimates.
Positively or negatively?
Like I am late. I'm saying that it will be done, let's say in one sprint, and I'm missing. And
so positively.
Yeah, maybe it's positively. I don't like this, and I don't know. I want to. It's because of how I am thinking about software. I see that everything is possible. I will do this. I will use maybe an AI agent to help me. And at the end of the day, I'm realizing that there is something that I didn't.
There's value in that as well, because like the way managers perceive the messages, basically you're telling them, hey, this is going to be done really fast. But then if you can, let's say, articulate why it wasn't done that fast, I guess they'll understand it. On my end, it's a bit different. I try to be, I guess, more pedantic and think of every possible negative scenario. And I'm like, no, this is not going to take, it's going to take probably longer. And the hard part for me is when I'm already running out of time and I don't know how much more time I will need to finish it. That's like the hard part. Because you might know, for example, if you need like an extra day or two, but you might not know if you need like a day or two or more because of what you're working, and you don't know yet the solution. You're figuring out as you develop it in a way. That's like the hard part for me.
I find this pretty stressful. Like back in the days, I had to work during the weekends because I felt like I will not have enough time to finish it next sprint when the sprint ends. And I don't think this is good because as a humans, we need a period of rest in order to be more productive. But
how do you deal with, like, let's say you did reach like, okay, it's the end of sprint, you didn't deliver it. Like what's usually, like, what's a healthy way? Because I know some companies speaking finger pointing, like, let's have a fucking meeting and talk about why we haven't been able to achieve our goals, as they like to put it.
Like what I'm trying to do, I try to be transparent. I even can publish a message in a public channel, list all the tickets that are not done, maybe describe why they are not done. Or if I don't publish this message in a channel, I can mention it several times during the meetings that I estimated wrong. This is what I estimated wrong. I can explain it, and we can like cut a corner, or we can deal with it and we have to implement a proper solution because we need this for a longer term. And to be honest, it doesn't work all the times. Like you can be blamed sometimes, but this is the reality of the software development. You are not always right. You cannot always estimate.
It's like asking a farmer how many crops you will yield this year. Like,
Yeah.
fuck knows. Like, the fucking weather might be different every year, you know?
Yeah.
Like, just to give you one variable. But with software, the variable is like sometimes, yes, it depends on you. Like, if you, let's say, you have the same code base, you're using the same database, then you know variables are more or less the same. But if you have to like integrate with an API and you don't know what are the roadblocks, you don't know if it's gonna work as they say it works.
Yeah.
Shit like that always has like hidden surprises, you know. And you might like I tend to like take a bigger buffer on that. And even when you implement everything correctly, once you roll that out in production, it still might have surprises, you know.
Yeah. I worked in for a period of time on let's say solution for integrating with third parties.
Yeah.
And it's not only about their API not being always correctly documented, because you had to reach to them to ask how something works, even if it's specified that it works that way in the documentation and it works differently. It's also about human factor, because when you are integrating with a third party, those people might go on vacation, they be out for a day, and you have to work on something else. You cannot continue work on that integration because it's human factor.
It's also that sometimes like when it comes to integrations, when you integrate with something, you also need to understand their mental model. Maybe they thought of the solution to be implemented in a certain way and you implemented it in a different way.
Yeah.
And it kind of works, but not how it's supposed to. And then you find out later on when you run this integration that it's actually not working properly.
Yeah, and the way I like to work on this area is that I'm working in iterations. I implement V1, let's say it's beta. I don't guarantee it works correctly because it has a third party.
Yeah.
But let's use it. Let's try it. Because you will use it, you will find more bugs. You will show it to clients. A client will see maybe a problem. I will iterate and I will deliver new stuff. I will implement it and I will polish it. And even after 1 year, when everyone is using it, it may have bugs, because this is like life. It's not perfect, but it works.
True. Yeah, I really love this approach you're putting out there about iterations. Like in my mind, it doesn't always make sense, but I guess I need to try more of that, because as like an engineer, you want things to almost be perfect. Like you cannot accept, let's say, unfinished solutions. And you mentioned this idea of iterations, which is also another smart way of selling. Okay, this is V1 and this is the V2 that I'm going to try to sell to the management. And I'm going to be able to sell it because the V1 is not that good of a job. And we need a V2 anyway because we need like a new feature, which is going to be based on V1.
Yeah, it doesn't work in all the cases, because sometimes I cannot sell like iteration or solving a bug in more iterations.
True.
It has to be solved. But when you are implementing a business solution, you know the business problem, and you want to reach this state, you can go in iterations because you can deliver parts of this solution. And
yeah, my problem with iterations is there's this saying of let's do it somehow, then we'll do it better, you know. But and you do like a POC, and it's supposed to be experimental, meaning unproduction, like non-production ready code. And what tends to happen is that shit becomes production, and you didn't expect it to be production because it was a POC, but people just copied the POC, put it in the project, and now that's production code. And because you didn't take the time to do it right, which means a little bit more time spent on that, you actually made something production, and now you and other people have to deal with that code.
Actually, what I'm doing, it's like not trying to do not production ready code. I'm trying to do not fully usable feature yet, which is
job
like
security.
It's like I deliver a feature that works in this case, but it doesn't cover other cases. If you want, let's say it's calling an external API, it's getting some data, it's processing it, and that's all. But you want to call an additional API to continue the flow. If you want that part, then we need to work more in that area. I need to call another API to implement a new model for that and stuff.
So you're saying we should rather focus on maybe restricting the feature, maybe trim down what we want to something smaller, so we can achieve it, let's say, to a certain degree of the same quality, instead of wanting a lot and sacrificing both on what we want as well as the quality.
Yeah, this is the way I'm thinking. Like if you want everything and you have a limited amount of time, you cannot achieve it. But if you know exactly what you want, it's more realistically to achieve it in a limited amount of time that we have.
Yeah, what I've noticed with startups especially is you want a lot of shit done, and then you don't restrict what you want is the problem. You still want what you want, and then all these questions about deadlines come in, like when is it done, when is it done, when is it done, and then a lot of pressure starts to build up. And then because of so much pressure that starts to build up on your ass and then on the client's ass, putting pressure on the managers, then at some point both the managers and the client agree that we actually need more, we need actually less features, or trim down the feature to less things. And you kind of forced to like restrict it when you could have restricted in the first place and have like a less stressful environment.
Yeah, I started doing this when I was in a place where I had to implement everything. I didn't have time to do it, and in order to do it, I started to do it in smaller steps. And as I was doing this in smaller steps, I realized that people are happier when they see some results, that they can touch it. And also I feel better because even if it's not fully ready, it's somehow usable. And even if they achieve a point where it's usable but it's not the end of that feature, but it's good enough, we can stop, we can focus on something else, and we will continue implementing like next level.
It's almost like you can almost feel a stress on your ass when, let's say, you said something will be done in a week, but because the scope of that something was too big to begin with, you're already not fitting in that week, and you already start to feel the pressure. You already start to feel that somebody's gonna ask, when is it done? And the more time it passes after they asked, the worse it gets for you, basically.
I would say more like you are estimating that it's going to take 1 week for that specific feature. During that week, they realize that they need more to be implemented.
Yeah, but that's changing the rules during the game.
Yeah, and like it's the business. This is how the market.
No, if that's the case, I just tell them, look, this is like a change request, meaning we should address the time it's gonna take to do it.
Yeah, this is a good approach. Like I had these problems when I like saying that I'm going to try to achieve it.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the week, I was responsible for not achieving.
Yeah, nobody's like rewarding you for that. If it's a risk you assume, I guess you're also the one to blame at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I would just stay risk free in this case. Okay, this is change request. Change request means more time. So that's it. You stay on the safe side at least.
Yeah.
In your opinion, I was wondering, like, what's like a good teammate? What's a good developer versus a great one?
I think the base for everything, it's are people who speaks and tells about what he's doing. It's a good team player.
Yeah.
Like even it can be the best software engineer in the world, but if it's a person that it's hard to work with, then it's not a good team player.
Like how would you define somebody who's hard to work with?
Someone that, like, let's say that he implemented a feature.
Yeah.
How he thinks about it, and then during the code review, we realize that even if it works, it's not following the code standards that everyone else in the team is following.
Yeah.
You are asking him to like let's adapt this, and he refuses to do this, or he does code reviews. Like, let's look from the other side. He does the code reviews, but he's like not explaining the reason so that the person who implemented the code understands and doesn't repeat the problem, but he's just asking for changes, not in a very good manner. And it's hard to work with this kind of people. And I think,
you touch on a very sensitive topic, which is code reviews. What's your personal opinion of code reviews? Are they useful? If they are useful, why is this stupid trend emerging when people don't ask for code reviews, but they ask for code approvals? Like you start to hear people not, can you review this, but can you approve this? Which is something which is happening on a scale. At the same time, what's, let's say, the top 3 changes you look in a code review? Like, what's your top 3 things you look at every single time you look at somebody else's work?
So in general, I think code reviews are good when you are a junior and when you are a senior as well. Like when I was a junior, they helped me to go in the right direction, to understand how stuff works in the code base. And when you are a senior, like you make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes because we are humans. And when another pair of eyes looks at what you written, it like will keep the software in the right direction. It will not make it perfect because even a few people are looking there, they can miss something. But in general, it's helping to keep the code quality. Now, what I'm looking for, I'm looking to follow the code standards. Also, I'm checking that the business problem is actually correctly implemented, because there are times when a ticket is describing something and then there is implemented differently. And I'm not that kind of person that will look in very very details on how a for loop was implemented or what something very small can be fixed. I'm looking at the variable names, at function names, and stuff like this, just to make sense because we have a coding standard.
True.
But not like too much.
Yeah, because like it's like a delicate balance, I would say. Like how much, like how do developers, like going back to estimations, how do developers explain the effort and time spent on code reviews? Because technically it's not part of a ticket you're working on. At the same time, you need, or somebody else needs, your code review. And it can be a small ticket they worked on or a bigger one, which requires more effort on your side as well.
Yeah, I think explaining the time needed for code reviews and for these iterations is pretty hard. And it's harder when you don't have a technical person that understands that this is going to take time.
Like the idea of managers is like, how did they analyze your work you're doing to begin with? Is you have tickets. Some people do have like a in code review status or whatever, but that's not the point. Like at the end of the day, they looked how many tickets assigned to you were done. In other words, how many story points you pushed in this sprint, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And none of those story points account for you having done a lot of code review on somebody else's work.
Yeah, that's true. And it's part of the probably you have to include this general work about doing code review for others or iterating on your pull request in the general work that you have to do during the sprint. And when we are assigning those story points to tickets, we have to take in consideration that this doesn't include just the work that I'm going to do in this ticket, but it's my work day which is limited, and I have to be a good team player to do some code reviews as well.
Do you sometimes sacrifice on your standards slash close a blind eye on code review? Let's say it's a Friday, somebody's asking for code review. You're already fucking, let's say you want to call it a day, and somebody's asking for a code review. Do you like, are you more indulgent in that moment?
I'm not sure if I am right, but usually I'm not doing the code reviews immediately when I am asked to do them.
Interesting.
I'm leaving them, like if I'm busy right now with something that I have to fix, I will fix my stuff, and when I have time, I will do that code review. And you know what we're doing? We also using an cursor, or not cursor, it's Code Rabbit called, for doing code reviews. And I think initially I was skeptic about this, but it's a good practice. We ask him to do first the code reviews, then we fix those comments. And when a real person, like let's say myself, looks at that code, it's already polished. Bigger problems are fixed. They were
you don't waste time with like basic stuff.
Yeah. And then you're just looking at the architecture. You're looking at the APIs that person is implementing. If it looks right, then it's good.
Yeah, I think that's saving a lot of time actually. If I'm thinking about it, it makes sense actually.
I will not say that I am a reviewer that will put pressure on you. Will just try to follow the code standards. the API to look good, and I trust you. You tested it. You wrote tests.
Yeah, you mentioned tests, code standards, and whatnot. Do you guys have testing as part of your? Let's say you want to implement a feature.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a mandatory thing for it to be covered by tests?
Yeah, for sure. And we only use automated tests, and we test everything. We have to be sure that those tests are testing business flows. And when you are changing something, you want that your feature it's safe. You want to cover it with tests. So if someone else in the team will change something that might affect the stuff that you implemented, you want your tests to catch that.
Yeah, like for me, at least when I started learning Go, I landed in a project. The easiest way for me to understand, and I was actually lucky enough that that project has a really wide coverage of tests. The advantage for me was if I wanted to understand how the product works, I would just read the test case names. Testing this, testing that. Okay, I see what this code is doing now. Whereas if you just look at the function which has like 200 lines of code, you don't immediately figure out what's going on there. What exactly is that function doing? Is it being called by another function? Is it part of a request or multiple requests and whatnot? However, when you look at the tests, it's like a really like in a way you're testing stuff. In other way, you can have it like a self-documenting of the user flow, as you said. But I was like you mentioned automated tests. Is it also like do you also keep put an accent on like unit tests?
We have a few unit tests that are testing some functionality.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, they are good when you want to run them fast and to receive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But integration tests are probably better because they are testing business flows. And if you write them in a correct manner, as you said, if they are helping you to understand the product, if they have correct names, they are correctly described, they will help not just testing the product, but when onboarding a new person, they will help them learn about the.
Are you a firm believer in test driven development? And when I say that, I mean in a startup world. Does it really work?
I tried to do it, but
Yeah.
I don't do it all the times. And sometimes I write tests first, but usually I write the functionality.
Especially when the requirements change.
Yeah.
Try making sense of TDD, I guess.
Yeah.
More on tests, is it like how important is coverage? Because there's like a lot of people who are like really pedantic about coverage, how much percentage you should have and whatnot.
I never measured coverage. I care about business flows. Like if I know that from a technical discussion we are going to cover a business use case, we are writing positive cases to make sure that those works.
Mm-hmm.
We are writing a few negative cases to make sure that our product should not work in that case, should return an error. If we are covering this and if our clients are using this, then I'm not sure that we need that code coverage. It's about the business problem. It's not about how much you covered your code with tests.
How important is it for the management to understand the value of having tests? Because a lot of them don't immediately see the value. And in reality, if you take the actual work, tests typically tend to be 2/3 of the actual work. So it's about 3 times faster to actually write the feature than to cover it with tests.
I would say that I had cases when writing the test took more time than fixing the bug. Like I was fixing the bug, and then writing that test took me more time than actual.
Because you need to figure out which test you need to remove, which test you need to adjust. If you adjust them, you need to adjust them correctly, not fake them, because you might have false positives and whatnot.
And when it's an integration test, it may start from a web application and end in another application, and you have to involve also a sync communication. And writing test may take some more time.
Yeah.
And the business understanding the value, I think it's pretty simple. Once you start growing the company, without tests, you will for sure have cases when a client is affected. And if you fix the problem for that affected client, but you don't add a test now, the chances that that problem will repeat again for that business flow are pretty high. And if it happens once and it happens twice for a similar reason, probably it's better to add a test and not to repeat the.
Let's say you have a client who wants a lot of features really fast, and they don't immediately see the value of tests, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you add more features, the likelihood of you breaking more stuff a lot easier is very high. And you have a lot of regression. And then the client comes back to the managers and say, why the fuck are you guys working on so many bugs? Why can't you just, push clean features without breaking stuff? And it's because we're people, it's because we make mistakes. But at the same time, how do you sell the idea of tests to client if they don't immediately see the value?
Probably I will try explaining to them, if we are going to work for a long period of time, this product is going to grow. You plan to sell it, not to use it use it one time and then throw it away.
True.
Then you need a safer way of developing this product, and part of the product development is writing tests. And you can spend more money on paying manual testers, which are human, and human are slower than machines. But if you want to have this product as good as possible, because nothing is perfect, then we need to invest some time on automating testing. We can deliver you some features initially,
right?
But let's agree that we will implement test, and let's not make this this something that happens every time. If it's a feature that you need to present to a possible customer, we will implement it. If it works and that customer is ready to pay money, let's add test and then let's make it part of the software.
Yeah, that's. I would say it has to be agreed on all levels, because if it's something which only developers agreed upon, at some point this deck of cards will fall.
Yeah,
because you have managers and they're like, okay, we've established like a deadline for this feature to be this date, and then this date is approaching. Not only are you not done with the feature itself, but forget about tests, and then you slide on it once, twice, and then you never do tests, basically.
My opinion is that as a software engineer, if we want to be professional, we should say clearly that we need tests. If you don't give us time for writing tests, we will not write this, because you employed us and we have to write it without tests. But let's write it down that we are not going to write tests, and these are the drawbacks of implementing software without tests. It's not something that we invented. It's a well-known practice in the software engineering world, and it's your decision not to do it.
True. Like, I would say as a professional, you should always give them options.
Yeah.
There's option A and option B. Yeah. If we follow option A, there's consequences. If you follow B, is also consequences. So sometimes, I guess, some clients, the only way they learn is sometimes through pain. And by pain, I mean, there's going to be a lot of regression, a lot of features that break other features, a lot of bugs and whatnot. And maybe at that point, it makes sense. But is it too late to add tests because there's so many of them to add? And then you have a huge log of technical debt. Like, how do you avoid technical debt in the first place?
So related to tests, yes, if you don't add them initially, it will be harder to add them and it will be more expensive.
Because then you can't justify, like, every single time you want to do refactoring, tests, documentation, you need to wrap that technical debt in some kind of business value. You can't just say, I'm going to fucking spend 2 weeks on refactoring. And the business is like, why? Like, what's the value? What am I getting? Any features maybe?
Yeah, that's true. And even refactoring without tests, it's not so safe.
Yeah.
What we are trying to do right now, it's like we realize, even during the code review, what I realize when I write code, that this it's not right. This needs to be improved, but the scope didn't include this. And it's pretty important to deliver the feature. I will create a ticket. I will add it I will put a correct label to it, or even assign it directly to me for a future sprint. I will add a to-do in the code, and I will be forced to fix it when I reach that sprint.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I do that myself sometimes. But like, when you say, like, the difference between a good to do and a bad one, I would say, is when you say to do, this needs to be done this way, not this way, versus to do Jira ticket ID, this needs to be done this way, not that way better. Because not only you know what you need to do, you also know what's the reference for that to do. And it's just like you said, you are kind of forced, or at least you are less ignorant when you see that.
Yeah, and the time passes. As the time passes, you are reaching that point when that ticket comes to you. You have to implement it.
Yeah, that's really well put, I would say.
I mean, there are cases when that needs to be fixed faster than that moment when I plan to fix it, and some team members might take it from me. We can discuss how to fix it, and they can fix it instead of me.
I was wondering, since you've also been on the market for quite some point, do you get bored of writing software?
I get bored sometimes, and I feel that I need to take pauses and to go to do something else. And that something else is not related to computers at all. I have to do something like with my hands, and at that moment when I'm doing that with my hands, the need of writing software, it's like calling me again.
Yeah, it's like when you're at work, you think about home. When you're at home, you think about work.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Do you do anything outside work?
I try to do. I like kayaking, for example.
Interesting.
During the summer, I go kayaking, or I like flying planes. I have a pilot license.
Really?
Yeah, and I fly planes sometimes.
Interesting. Is it like the what kind of planes?
Small planes with a few people.
Yeah, I should check you out maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I've seen some ads on that. I'm like, I should try that one time, but I'm like, so you're like the pilot.
Yeah, I have a pilot license.
Is it hard to get one?
I think it's not hard, but at that moment when I studied for it, it took, or I was thinking that it's hard because I knew nothing. I was
yeah
alone there.
If you fly an FPV drone, how hard is it to fly a plane?
It's completely different.
Because I'm used to like flying FPV drones and stuff.
Maybe if you played this Microsoft simulator
right
on a computer and you have this setup for a plane, then it's much easier.
How many hours do you have to like put in to let's say get the license?
So you need 45 hours to fly, like actually the block times when you started the engine.
It's not a lot.
It depends on the weather, how you can fly them.
Yeah.
This is the minimum.
What's the most complicated part about this?
It's probably not flying, it's probably studying for it. And the initial part, it's you have to study a lot. And
no, I mean like while you're flying, or let's say before or after, like what's the most like, let's call it stressful situation when you're flying a plane?
Probably takeoff and landing. And then on the third place, it's just communicating with different radio controllers.
Do you have to follow like regulations and stuff?
Yeah, there are regulations, there are maps, there are directions.
Yeah, you've got me intrigued into this.
We can discuss after.
Yeah, we mentioned mistakes and whatnot. I was curious if you were to go back to yourself 5 years ago, what message would you send to that guy?
So probably the most important thing it's that you should rely on yourself. You should like study, and studying is important. Keeping standards high, it's also important because the world changes. But if you have like studied, you have high standards, you will move easier in your career path.
Since you mentioned standards, what's something you thought strongly of back in the day, let's say 5 years ago, and maybe as time progressed, you've changed your mind, or maybe started to accept some things which you were skeptical of and whatnot?
So maybe like 5 or 7 years ago, I was thinking that code is the most important thing. But as the time passes, I feel like human interaction is very important. Understanding the business, it's important. And code is on the third place, maybe.
Yeah, that's a very, I would say, very down to earth perspective. And I am of the exact same opinion. Initially, you start as like the junior, and then as you progress, you're like, no, that's not important. That's not important. And code eventually, I don't even care like what I'm writing code in, what's going to be the database, what's going to be the technology. I'm just okay. These are tools, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, it's business that's the most important.
Yeah.
Before I close with my last question, I am going to ask you, like we had still water, but still the tradition of the show is you have to pick a bottle, and today's drinks is a red wine. So like I said in the beginning, we have Instinct from Gogo Winery. One of them is a Moldovan one. I think it's Rara Neagra or Fetească Neagra. The other one's like Saperavi, I think. So which one is it going to be?
Let me choose the Rara Neagra.
Yes, you're a patriot. Cool. I guess good choice, but I'll see after that, because I try to pick new bottles every single show until I run out of bottles, I guess. But to end the show, I ask everyone one final question, which is, what is your piece of advice for anyone who's watching this, whether they're software engineers, managers, people who are just curious about tech and whatnot?
The tech, it's about people. Like every business on this planet and everything what happens, it's about people. So on the first place, it should be the human interaction. Then you need to take care about self. You need to study permanently. You need to have high standards. And third, it's like you have to understand the business, but be prepared to understand other businesses as well. You need to evolve.
Very beautiful piece of advice. It's been an honor and a pleasure to meet you. This is the first interaction we have, and I can say it's been a really pleasant discussion. I'm waiting for a V2, and it's been an honor.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure for me as well.
Yeah, likewise. Ladies and gentlemen, this was VUnstaged. Keep your mind open and your source unstaged. Until the next one.